Don't swear. Evening, folks. Welcome back. Hope you're enjoying the sunshine. I'm looking a bit red. We're out in the sunshine earlier on. That's what happens in Scotland. When you go in the sun, you tend to just go red. You know what I mean? But tonight I'm joined by these two people. You recognise them because they've been here before. We have hypnotherapist over there, Debbie Ison, and we have life coach down there. I was going to call you Paul Ison there. I don't know why. Paul at Pulse. There, I got it right this time. I've done that before. I've called people with the wrong name, and luckily they've just kind of sat there and smiled. And then you realise, no, your name's no John, isn't your name's Graham. So how are we, folks? What's life been doing to you?
Oh, it's been great here. So I've been very busy the last few days with clients, and at the weekend I went to London, so that was very exciting. So travelled down to the Society of Psychical Research to pick up some paranormal investigation equipment. So that was good fun.
I'll come back to you in a second about that. What about you, Paul? What you've been
well, my life sounds quite boring compared to that, I think. Although I must say, we went to Rome at the end of March. What was that? 3-4 weeks ago. Just had 5 days in Rome, which was sensational. Blew us away. You think these big cities, you know, they get hyped up, but Rome was better than I'd imagined. So yeah, that was amazing. We had a really great time there.
Oh, brilliant!
I think the last time you were right, we were talking about the Colosseum.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean about cities getting hyped up. I went to one of the times I went abroad many years ago. I went to Valencia, and we were going to SRT as well, but we'd heard all about Barcelona, so we took a day trip into Barcelona, and to be honest with you, I was quite disappointed.
Really?
Aye. Maybe it's just because I'm from Glasgow and we're not used to sunshine and fresh air, you know, but it was, I don't know, it's hard to describe. I was like, is this it kind of thing?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what I was expecting, but people say, oh, Barcelona. Don't get it was nice, but just, you know, not my cup of coffee or cup of hot water, as Debbie would say.
Yeah, a lovely cup of hot water here in my Paul mug. It's called Paul, this mug. Not after you, Paul. Called after one of my other friends who took me into an antiques fair and wanted me to spend lots of money there. And so, as a token gesture, I spent £1 on this mug. And he was horrified by it. He said it was the most hideous mug he'd ever seen. So I named it after him in his honour.
I've got my, I don't know whether I can see that. Like, always be awesome.
Nice.
Which is like a pint pot, but mine's got hot blackcurrant in it.
Well, I'm sorry, but I've got a boring B&M cup with coffee in it. You know, that's all I've got. But at least your friend was honest about your mug.
He was.
You know, you get these things, people in life that buy things and they're absolutely ugly. You know, dogs, for instance, you know, I've nothing against dogs, but, they look like somebody, they've ran into a wall or something. And they say, oh, look what I got, got me Friday. And you think, that's one ugly. But you need to say it's nice looking, don't you?
You do, but I mean, I don't understand how anybody could say this mug is ugly. I think it's delightful. It's a monk, I think, a KP mug from the 1980s.
I'll plead the Fifth Amendment on that one. All right, I'll just keep keep my opinions to myself. So tonight, folks, we're going to be talking about paranormal. Funnily enough, believe it or not, maybe we'll see. There's Laura, one of ours. Evening, dear. So, Debbie, you were in London. I love London. The buildings, Hampton Court Palace, Tower of London, all that kind of the whole historical side of it as well. So, you're going to start getting into the investigation side.
Yes, I am. So it's something I've been interested in for quite a long time. And I was speaking to some of my colleagues at university who are also very interested in that because obviously we look at exceptional experiences and paranormal experiences. And a couple of weeks ago, my good friend Alex contacted me. He works for a big corporate company. And on one of their UK sites, they've got an XRAF base. and there's lots of people hearing disembodied voices, footsteps, other unusual activity. And he asked me, would I like to go and investigate it? So I thought that sounds good fun. So I've roped in one of my colleagues, Dr. Hopkins, and we had a jolly up to London to the SPR to go and collect the equipment because we don't have our own. And we're going to carry out our first proper investigation on Saturday night.
Well, we're investigating Saturday night. So are you going to be recording it or going live or whatever?
We need to sort that out yet. And this is where this chat is going to be great tonight, because I'm sure you're going to impart some of your wisdom in helping us.
Wisdom.
We're spending tomorrow evening looking at the equipment and how we work it. We've got lots of video recorders and things like that available. So we just need to decide exactly whether we're going to live stream anything or whether we're just going to record it and then see what happens and maybe release some of that afterwards.
So technically you're going to be a newbie.
Yes.
We could tell her anything we want, Paul. She'll believe us.
I want to know, because I don't know much about the paranormal as such. I don't do any investigation or anything. So what are the instruments actually measuring?
Well, I'll let Debbie try and answer it since she's just getting into it.
Go on, Debbie.
I was too busy in London and the sights and eating nice food to even get the equipment out. But I think we've got some things that measure temperature, some things that measure moisture in the air. I think there's different cameras in there that perhaps are meant to show things up. I don't really know. I think we're going to have to ask Scott about this. I'll know by Saturday. I'll be an expert by Saturday.
Okay.
You should have been Googling since last week, since you came back from London. You know, we're a very... No, this isn't no disrespect to anybody who uses tons of equipment and stuff. We don't use a lot of equipment. We use a K2, which is quite a popular little gadget. You know, electricians and that use it for finding like wires and walls and stuff like that. So it picks up electromagnetic energy, which spirit does give off. There's 101 things that can set your K2 off. You know, it can be a radio wave, power line above you, anything. The way we use it is that we'll sit it down and you know, the green light will be on, and we'll ask a question and we'll say, you know, if you're here, we call it a black box because we think a lot of spirits don't know technical names for, you know, SLS camera, etc. So, you know, so we just call it a black box. And we'll ask them a question and say, you know, if the answer is yes, can you make that black box go to yellow? And so if it goes to yellow and back down, we count that as an intelligent response. And then we'll, you know, if a lot of people say, well, anything could be setting off, but my mindset is if a K2's sitting dormant, right, just with green light on, and you ask a question, and then it lights up, and then it goes back to dormant, and then it sits dormant for another length of time till you ask something else. And if it lights up again, then you're getting intelligent that something's making that light up when you are asking a question. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That's interesting.
You know, I mean, your phone.
Sorry,
Paul.
What triggers that light to change then? Is it electric current? Is it a change of humidity? You were talking about water content and stuff.
It's the electric magnetic energy that's in the air. The spirit gives off. Same as, you know, as I say, electricians use them in houses, will run them along the walls. So if there's electricity or any kind of energy going through that wall, this meter will pick it up and it lights up. It is quite a useful wee tool, but you need to be careful. As I say, there's hundreds of things that can set it off. And in the paranormal, I've watched a lot of teams where your phone's one of the biggest things that can set it off. That's why we always put our phones in flight mode. But if we're doing a live, then we tend to keep the phone, I think it's about 15 feet or something away from the meter, and then the meter won't pick your phone up. But you do get these groups out there that will do a live, and they're standing right next to the K2, and the meter's going crazy, and they're saying, "Oh, that's spirit." So it's your phone.
Yeah.
You know. So my advice, and now what we tend to do is, if we've got the K2 sitting somewhere and somebody's live streaming for us on their phone, if it's the K2's going off, and get the person to back up a couple of steps at a time to see if that meter goes off. I think it's about roughly 15 feet, the range that it'll pick up. We use simple cat balls. You know, some people call them kitten balls. If you touch them, they light up. We do have a heat gun to measure temperatures. We don't use that very much, but we do have a heat gun that will measure, you know, for if something happens and we hear a noise and use the heat gun, you point it the direction that you heard it in, and it'll show you the temperature. It might be a cold spot, whatever. So ping pong balls. You see, a lot of people think you need to spend hundreds of pounds on equipment, but you don't. You know, you can make anything for stuff you'll find about the house. One time I got a bit of string and cut up an old T-shirt and just, you know, into strips. But you need to do this one inside, and you just hang it up. And you light a candle and put it nearby, and you ask spirit, can you touch one of these strips to make it move?
Interesting. And
you watch the candle, and if the strip moves and the candle's still burning true, then you know it's not a draft.
Okay, yeah.
That's something, and you know that cost me a T-shirt, an old T-shirt. That was it basically, and a bit of clothesline. You know, so as we Eileen it, evening doll for Phantom Seekers Paranormal, ping pong balls. We use them, and I'll put a wee cross on the ping pong ball, and we just set it down. And obviously, if the cross moves, you know that something's moving that ball. So equipment-wise, to be honest with you, I don't know a lot about it because we don't use it. SLS cameras, I know a few teams that use them, but the problem with SLS cameras is they will, you know, the cameras that map, with the stick men sort of thing. Aye.
Yeah.
That was quite a good. I'm an SLS camera. Look at me. What a lot of people don't realise is if you point the camera at something, maybe a pair of curtains, something straight, the camera will pick that up.
Yeah.
And it'll show it as, you know, a figure, whatever. So a lot of people mistake that for a spirit when it's actually a pole, a pair of curtains, a chair. Could be anything really.
So where do you need to aim that then? If we have one of those and if we're using that, where do we need to direct that?
I would say the best place to aim it would be, now this is just my opinion, Eileen will probably, Laura as well, at a wall.
Yeah.
A bare wall, no windows, no curtains, not just a plain wall. SLS map and all manner of things. So I would say a wall. That's my advice. But as Eileen says, the best bit of kit you've got is your own senses.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be smell, touch, you know, hearing. You know yourself if somebody's about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can pick it up. I mean, we've done quite a few investigations. In one investigation, I get a strong smell of perfume. I was blindfolded with earphones on, and I could smell perfume.
Oh,
and there was 4 or 5 women there. And I thought it was one of the girls that came over beside me. It was at Loudon Kirk, actually. But twice that happened. And but none of the girls were anywhere near me. And after I took the blindfold and that off, I was standing beside the rest of the group, and I smelled this perfume again. And I says, "Can you no smell it?" And nobody else could smell, but it was really, really strong. So your best bet is just go in and use your own senses first. One bit of advice I always say to people is don't expect anything.
Yep.
You know, but I also
that's probably a really good thing not to expect too much because I get overly excited.
I also knowing that you work with spirit and hear them, couldn't you go to this place and talk? I can.
That's what I plan on doing, to be honest. That's going to be one of the roles that I take. I'm going to go in and tune in. So Matthew, my colleague, is going to be responsible for the equipment along with some of the other people that are there. And I think I'm going to tune in and interact and see what happens.
As Alison says, strong smell. That was another thing that happened. It's a wee churchyard in the middle of nowhere in Ayrshire. It's a wee, you can't even call it a village. It's like 3 houses and a pub, and that's it. There's a wee churchyard there. We were there one time, and we get the very strong smell of paint.
Okay.
No, there was always the building had to be decorated. We're outside the building. There was no fresh paint anywhere, and it was in the middle of a graveyard. But we all smelled this paint, and it was really, if we were standing beside a freshly painted door, but we just couldn't work out where it was coming from.
Fascinating.
But that's what I would say, because a lot of people start out investigating. We did the same, when we first started. You go your first investigation and you're expecting everything to happen. You're expecting Satan to turn up and, all the demons and all the rest of it and blah, blah, blah. And you can sit there for hours, which we've all done, and no doubt you'll do as well, Dave. And nothing happens.
It's going to be a good test of my patience to see how long I can manage to do that. I've not got the longest attention span. I'll do my best.
All right, you've got the attention span of a fish, basically.
Yep.
So, Scott, if you go into, you go into an investigation and, you've been there an hour and there's been absolutely nothing, happening. How long do you sit that out? Or is it a full night job? Is it kind of, right, we're rocking up at 8 o'clock at night and we're going home at 6 a.m, no matter what? What's the...
It depends on the individual. I mean, one time we did for about 10 at night to about 4 in the morning, and we did quite a bit of activity. But you can sit for 10 at night to 4 in the morning and you get nothing. I always say, if spirit doesn't want to talk to you, then you're getting nothing. It could be, a spirit that's sitting right next to you. But if they're not in the mood to talk, then you'll never know they're there. You see, this is the thing. Again, it's TV programs, which we've talked about numerous times. They give out this thing that everything's going to happen right away. But I've always said there should be shows that show the other side of the paranormal, that you do sit there for hours. And it's like fishing. You can sit for hours and not get a bite. You can put your rod in the water, 5 minutes, something happens. There's no kind of time limit, I mean, the only time we've gave up is at Alloway Kirk. We went there one night, and as soon as we walked in, we just had a feeling that the place felt flat. There was no atmosphere. And we lasted about 15 minutes, 20 minutes most. We thought, right, you know what? We're just going to go up the road, because we know it was just a feeling everybody had. There's nothing here. We're no psychic or anything. But you just get that kind of flat feeling. And it's 15, 20 minutes, we thought, right, just let's go home, basically. New locations camera problem. We've been lucky and a great activity. There's also nights when you go to a location and you get the feeling of flat and know nothing will happen. That's what I love about the paranormal. I've seen this in a few shows. You just don't know. As you were saying there, Paul, you can sit for an hour, nothing happens. But then you don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 minutes. Maybe nothing. And then you don't know what's going to happen in the following 2 or 3 minutes. If that makes sense.
You see, I'm an optimist. I know it's like my first time doing it properly, but I think something will happen. I just have got this really hopeful feeling.
But you see, that's good and bad. You're getting in with a good feeling. I'm going to enjoy myself tonight. I'm going to have a good night. But the bad side is, if you're getting into it, I've got a really good feeling something's going to happen, but then nothing happens, are you going to be disappointed?
I should think so. It will get so long when I'll be like, oh, I'm getting hungry now. I need a cup of hot water.
I'm getting hungry. And you know me, a Big Mac or something like that. I'd be going, I need a Big Mac, not a cup of hot water. You know.
Should Debbie be taking gifts, or should she be taking, like, what? Is there something that would coax them out? I mean, Debbie's friendly and optimistic, and like, who wouldn't want to talk to her, right? So they're probably going to want to be communicating with her. But is there anything that she can do to make, up the odds, so to speak?
You can, in a way. Eileen's been realised whereas a mix of personality can be influenced, good humour can bring energy. I've watched many teams, and there you go, a bit for you, Debbie. Take a snack bag and flash Debbie.
That's my role. I organised the boys the other day. I got them online, and I delegated lots of jobs to everyone else, as I do. And the job I'm taking charge of is snacks.
And the hot water.
And the hot water.
Very important. You can spirit. How can you put it? As Eileen mentioned, that spirit is checking you out. Spirit's no daft. They can tell what kind of person you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get these teams that go in and they're very regimental and straight. Anybody there? Are you male or female? Come on, answer me and all that. But that's no the way to do it. You just go in and you just be yourself. You just say, "Hi, my name's Debbie," or "My name's Paul. I've got some friends here." Always introduce yourself.
Excellent.
Always say, "My name's Debbie. This is Paul. That's Michael. For those you see, just came along to say hello to you, and we're here with respect to you and whoever else might be here." And then just start chatting away.
Okay.
There's no. We get told a couple of years ago by a certain individual that we were investigating the wrong way, even though we were getting results. So I contacted him. I said, "Well, what's the right way to do it?" Oh, right. I said, "There's no any right or wrong way to investigate."
Yeah.
You don't. Be yourself, be respectful, tell them who you are, why you're there. Love for you to speak to you and hear your story. I
do have a problem with those investigations that go in and they start winding up and goading the things there and insulting them and provoking them as a way to try and get interaction, because, well, you wouldn't ever speak to a living person in that way. I certainly wouldn't. It's disrespectful. So I think that point there that's been made about respect is essential.
If you give respect, you get respect in life. Whether it's physical or spirit, but spirit can pick up whether you're a tomato. I can't say that. There's a word I usually use. I can't because Laura's watching. Begins with a C, and it's no see you next Tuesday. It's another word. But you get folk again, and they're just total monkeys, basically. And as you say, they're goading the spirits. Spirit knows whether you're a monkey or not.
Mm-hmm.
They can tell when you walk in that door, gate, whatever it might be. She seems all right, so I'll go and talk to her. You just be yourself is the best advice we can give anybody is be yourself and don't expect anything.
Okay. I should do my best not to get overly excited.
No, we're getting out and we're out this Saturday as well, back to Loud and Cut, and you always get excited before an investigation because you're going to do something that you love, know, and there's that not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, are they going to say hello? Are they not going to? So there is, you do get excited by it. That's a good point. Well, there's absolutely no need for disrespect. You're in their place. You're the visitor. You're the guest.
Absolutely.
So it could be an old castle and these spirits lived there. As far as they're concerned, that's still their territory, that's their place.
Yeah.
And you've came in and, you go in and start shouting, pardon me, you go and start shouting and bawling and, you know, come out, you're a demon and all that bollocks. They're just going to say, I'm not talking to you, mate. You're a tomato. I'm off. I mean, the Chris Bang walk cruise, as I call them, all mouth and show. Exactly. You just go in, just be yourself. And you could sit for 2 and 3 hours, Debbie, and get absolutely diddly squat. You know, it's happened to us. A couple of times what we have found, though, is I remember one night at Loudon Kirk, we were with Spig, it's another team based in Glasgow, and we'd been there for about an hour or two and we were getting nothing. And so we thought, right, we're just going to pack up and we'll just go home. You know, as soon as we said that, the cat ball started going off and the K2 meter started going off. Because we'd threatened to go home and leave them alone. It sounds crazy, but that's what, as soon as we say, right, we're just going to pack up, we're going to go home, get a cup of coffee, you know, watch something, whatever, then the thing started happening. So obviously we stayed there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. It's interesting.
I think for a lot of people, you know, if you think about a spirit, that's going to be the same. I think is a lot of people want to be heard, and I think you know, with Debbie's background, you know, with counselling and hypnotherapy and all this sort of thing, you know, he's trying to get a conversation going. And some people, you know, when we're coaching, they can be reluctant at the start to go deep. You know, you need to build trust with people. I think Debbie would be absolutely ideal for this, for building trust with spirit to get them to communicate.
Thanks, Paul. I agree with you, actually, because I've done quite a lot of remote energy clearances over the years and some in-person clearances. So I will go into a space, either in my mind or in person, and I will tune into the spirits that are there, interact with them. And I basically give them therapy to help them to release them so they don't have to be stuck there anymore. And that tends to work quite well. And I'm very experienced with that. Likewise with the spirit release with the hypnotherapy. It's just I haven't applied those skills in this way where we're doing it for investigation purposes. So I'm quite intrigued. So thank you for reminding me about that link, that I already do know how to do that.
It's like, as I asked earlier about what can you do to kind of encourage them, like take them gifts, you know, which is my simplistic way of kind of asking the question. But it's like, how can you serve them? That's the question, I guess, because if you can serve them, there's a good chance that they might come out and ask for your help, whether that's release from where they are or whatever it is that they need, so to speak.
I think that's a really valid point. Thank you for that.
I mean, you know, you say you take them gifts and what have you. You know, we believe, you know, let spirit come to you, you know, in their own time. As I makes a good point, it's never wasted time to spending time with friends, sharing experience. You know, you can do a 5-6 hour investigation and get nothing. You know, you will get people there that say, oh, that was crap tonight, don't get back there, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're not doing something you love, your team, your friends, whoever it is, and you're having a bit of a joke, a bit of banter, and, you know, we never got anything, but we still had a good night, you know.
I feel better just hearing you say that about the joke and the banter, because I think in my head I've got a bit worried that I might just have to be really still and silent, and I'm not very good at that. So if I can be chatting to my mates whilst I'm there, that's a really good night, whatever.
I mean, you're sitting and you're having a joke and a bit of banter with your friends, whatever. Who's to say that spirit's no standing there listening to you?
That's true, yeah.
You know, and they might just make them, well, you know, she's okay, he's okay. They're a bit light-hearted. Well, I'll say hello to them. So spirit could, as I said, they could be sitting right next to you and listening to your joking or your banter, but you'll just not realise they're there. But you do get people just sitting and they'll look about. But that could be boring for spirit.
That's true. I'd be bored watching that.
Exactly, because you've come in, you know, as somebody said in the comment, you've come into their place, their space, and you're just sitting there. Can you imagine somebody coming into your house and sitting in your settee and not saying a word? Just sitting there.
It'd be a bit odd.
you know, are you going to? So spirit can be exactly the same. They can be sitting like, are you going to talk? Are you going to ask for me? You know, so just be you. Think of it this way: you could be the first spirit spoke to in over 100 years. They're cautious; they're not sure what's going on, but they know they can hear and see you, and it's new to spirit too. Which is a very good point. We always have a bit of crack at death with Brian's energy. It does this. It keeps you just be yourself, you know. But the gift thing, I mean, we've been doing Loudon for about 3.5 years, and it took us, I'd say, the best part of a year of going there before we get any activity at all. We always had the feeling that there was somebody about. You know, Eileen's been there, Laura, Sarah's been there. You always, when you go to Loudon Cut, you always get the feeling that there's somebody about, there's people watching you. But we were the best part of a year before we get anything at all. And sorry, Paul.
Scott, do you go back to the same places kind of regularly with the idea of building up a relationship, so to speak?
Aye. Basically, that's what we do. Yeah. But we do go to places that are one-off, you know, as every other team does, you know. We'll go here, there, A, B, and Y, and whatever. But we feel that, because I've been asked a couple of times, why do you go to the same location all the time? Does it not get bored? And say no, because the more we go, the more spirit remember us. I mean, we've got EVPs that everybody in your team's name's been mentioned. One night, Sarah wasn't there. And we got an EVP saying, "Where's Sarah?"
Oh,
you know, and we got another one. You know, here comes Scott or something like that. Was here Scott coming or something? So they do get to know you.
That's cool.
You know, and they're on this computer actually. They do get to know you, and they remember. I'll start you coming up on a wee side island. I'd always wondered about whether spirit remembers. You know, or not. So I think it was 2 or 3 Christmases ago. Craig, Laura's other half, and I went to Loudon just before Christmas, and we took a wee toy train and an angel doll, and we left them there. And we says, you know, it's coming up to. We just talk normally. You know, it's coming up to Christmas. We thought we'd bring a wee gift for the children, for the kids. Have a nice Christmas, and we left. So we went back first week in January or something. And I says in the investigation, you know, it's a new year. You know, we all had a good Christmas. Can you tell me the gifts that I left for the children? And we got through on the Necrophonic, which is a really, really good app. We get through Toy Train, Doll, and Angel. Clear as a bell. There's your other half in. Evening, Peter. I'm looking forward to chatting with this guy.
Then you done it again with marbles.
And we did the same the following year with marbles. That's Sarah came up with the idea because the kids we reckon are maybe running about the 1800s. So we're trying to think of something they'd be familiar with. You know, marbles are hundreds of years old. So we left marbles. And so we did it again. Can you tell us? And it came through marbles. So that proved to us, I mean, we didn't do it to show, oh, we're the best team and all that bollocks, you know. But that showed us that spirit, they were there, they were watching, and they remembered what you left them.
Fascinating.
Eileen's saying she felt it as soon as she had entered the group. It was Eileen's first time at Loudon a few weeks back. She felt as well the atmosphere. We've had conversations continued from one visit to another. If we ever, as if we never left, just picked up the chat again.
That's really interesting.
He's coming. That was when Sarah and me were in the barn. You were coming from the ball. There's Loudon Cut's connected to a farm, and Sarah, Laura, and I did an investigation. But I went for a wander, and Sarah and Laura were sitting in the barn, and I was on my way back up, and they got through. He's coming. Just as I appeared at the barn door. You know, some people might say, well, that's coincidental. Maybe it was, who knows, but, you know, it's a bit too coincidental.
Yeah.
But no, going back to you were saying, Paul, we find going back to the same place, if you make that connection with spirit, then keep going to that place, and the connection will build up, and they'll get used to you, you'll get used to them. And it's not that you got to say, right, we've finally proved life after death, etc. That's not what we're interested in. We're just trying to build up a relationship with whoever might be there, and who wants to chat, basically. So that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I know there's a big, huge scientific side to it, which we don't do. No disrespect to anybody that does. I don't understand the scientific side of it. For simple reasons, 2 reasons. I'm not that intelligent. And 2, I don't think spirit gives a toss. Basically, it's the same as you get this guy might go into an investigation with a £400 SLS camera. You've got another wee guy who goes in with a ping pong ball. You think, well, who's spirit going to take more interest in? The ball or this device thing that just not a clue what it is?
Yeah.
Spirit doesn't care.
Well, the other thing is, like, when you the story is when they took a camera to the Aborigines or to Red Indians, they thought it was going to capture their soul or their spirit. So you might actually, the more equipment you take, the more resistant they might be to communicating.
That's a really good point.
I watched a guy, I've told this story and it was funny. It wasn't funny for him, but it was funny for me because I'm just sick, But he did Greyfriars, and this was about 4 years ago or something. And he went in, and you think he was going to war with Iraq or something like that. The amount of stuff that this guy had, he'd everything under the sun. And he went into one of the open tombs in Greyfriars, and it took him about 2 hours. He did this on a live to set it up. So you were sitting there watching this guy set up, and when he'd finished, there was lights everywhere. And he get diddly squat. It was so funny. He get nothing. I was like, what a tube? Do you know what I mean? Whereas if somebody else would walk in, as we've done, and we'll throw a couple of cat balls down on the ground and put the K2 down, and then we'll start talking, and you get activity right away. This guy had everything in this tube. It was all lit up, and it took him about 2 hours to break it all down again. I was like, you are a... and so, I mean, spirit isn't... to me, spirit's basic. That's why we don't go for the scientific side, because we don't think spirit gives a toss. Granted, there's cameras out there. We do have cameras, and we do take photographs, as everybody does. But we don't really dive deep into the scientific side yet. Because
I think that's great, isn't it? I think sort of you're getting out of it what you want from the experience.
We're getting enjoyment out of it, but we've been really, really lucky at Loudon. And most of the investigations we do there, we do it as a live so that people can see. I mean, there's a lot of groups out there that say, we did an investigation last night, get tons of activity, but you never see it. They don't put it on the page or not. But I prefer doing a live because anybody watching sees or hears what we do at the same time.
That makes sense.
So if we see something or we hear something, we for people to actually, I heard that, and we'll go and have a wee look to see if we can debunk it, obviously. But they're kind of sharing the experience with you. If you know what I mean.
Makes people feel a part of it, doesn't it?
It does. It involves people in as well. And it lets people see that you're not there trying to fake anything or, anything like that, that you're actually just standing there and just chatting away. What we have found is spirit light colours with cat balls that light up, EMF meter lights up. They seem to enjoy these. They can make the colour come off and on and off. Pictures do have energy to them. If that energy comes from a subject of the image, then maybe spirit would avoid getting caught on camera, so to speak, to preserve their edge. That's a good point. We've had that with many, many other teams have had that. We've had cameras turned off. It happened in the Ivy House, it happened in Caldwell. We've set up a locked off camera but a full battery, and the cameras have just turned herself off. And it happens so many times with all different teams. We've had a camera turn off and then turn itself back on in the Ivy House. And there was about 10, 12 witnesses to this. The camera was off and then it miraculously came back on. But nobody was near it. Another thing, photographs that went missing. We took a photograph at Loudon Cut once, and it was a Celtic cross, and everybody, there was about 8 or 10 years there, and I showed everybody the photograph. You could clearly see a wee girl like peeking out from the side of the cross. Everybody seen it, looked at the photographs we were on, and she was gone.
Fascinating.
So, you know, we just couldn't think of that. Some location lives aren't possible because of signal special cast. Now that's true. I mean, Stair's a classic. Stair in Caldwell, there's just no signal whatsoever. So you do need to try and record stuff. But not at the end of the day, be yourself, you know.
Excellent. That's exciting.
Just don't go in with, you know, big expectations. And if you don't get anything on your first visit, then don't be put off. You know, a lot of people might go and do one investigation, not that, I'm not doing that again. That was a total waste of a night, or, you know, whatever. Keep going back. Your spirit will get to know you. They will get to remember you. And the more they get to know you, the more they'll... It's always just gaining their trust. You know?
Brilliant.
And it's like having another set of friends, basically. If that makes sense.
Debbie, just remind me where you're actually going to do this investigation, and is there a history of spirit there?
Of the place, because obviously it's a private corporation that have granted us permission to go there, but it's an ex-RAF base. So one of my colleagues that's doing it with me has got some of the history of some of the people that were there. I haven't seen any of that because how we've set it up is that the history has been sent through and there's a floor plan sent through. So we've got one floor plan that's been written on it where people have experienced different activity. I've been sent a blank floor plan. So what I've done is I've used a pendulum and I've doused over the top of the floor plan to see where the pendulum indicates there's some energy. And then I've sent that off and we're going to keep that separate. And then we're going to see what happens on the night. Then when we go and sort of have a look round and decide where we're going to set up and if there's any parallels between what other people have experienced and the dowsing. So I don't know anything about the location and I'm not going to look up anything about the location. To be honest, when I was first told about it, I thought it was in a completely different place to where it is. And if it had been left to me to organise the transport, we'd have ended up somewhere about an hour the wrong way.
Never let David drive it. But I mean, RAF bases, I've watched a few people investigate RAF bases, and they do seem to be quite active because of, you know, everything that's happened there. They do seem to be quite a few spirits kicking about, basically. So, you know, you might...
Isn't there a lot of emotional energy in those situations when people have been at war or in conflict? There's going to be loss, whether it's people that have died in collisions or crashes, and also then their friends, their comrades that are missing them or are mourning for that. So I think that really helps. There's going to be a lot of emotional energy that's being distributed there.
Exactly. I had an experience with RAF Cultus Hall. Saw and spoke to an officer that turned out to be spirit. Debbie won't get anything. She will get something. She's like a clear quote. She amplifies everything around her.
Yeah. I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful that stuff will come through.
But that's the best way to be, you know, hopeful, be bubbly, and just be yourself, because, you know, there's a few comments that says a good energy does attract spirits. You know, it's a kind of beacon for them, for want of a better word, you know. And as I said, you might be the first person these spirits have been in contact with. We found that at Caldwell, even Loudon. You know, I know I talk about Loudon a lot, but it's just kind of main place. Loudon's not very well known You know, you can easily drive by it and not even know it's there. So we thought, well, is it a case that nobody's ever visited these people before? Even Caldwell's an old manor house that you can drive by and not even know it's there because it's off the main road. We got a tremendous amount of activity there, and we thought, well, is it because nobody's ever investigated it? We found plenty of urbex explorers that had been there, but we couldn't find any, you know, teams or anything that investigated it, and we got activity for day one. And I suppose, is this because nobody's bothered with them?
Maybe.
And now somebody's finally turned up, you know, he's came to talk to us, so full in, you know, everybody come on, talk to this guy or talk to this woman, because they've took the time.
Paul knows me from the wellbeing shows. I'm quite chatty, aren't I? I make friends with everybody. Anybody that will have a chat, I'm quite happy to engage. So hopefully that'll bring in the right energy.
Remember, so at one point, you know, and I'm not lecturing here or anything, I used to make the same mistake, because, you know, I'm quite chatty as well. And when we first started investigating, we were terrible, actually. I think we just watched too many ghost shows, you know. And I was asking question after question, just bang, bang, bang. And somebody says to me, you need to give spirit time to answer.
Yeah.
You know,
that makes sense.
I've watched you and it's bang, 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 bang. And you're not giving whoever might be there that gap to, you know, as we're having a conversation with somebody, you need to give them that gap to talk to.
That is very true.
And so you might ask a question, Debbie, at 8 o'clock, and, you know, 8:07, you might get an answer.
Yeah. I'm going to have to be patient, aren't I?
We don't exactly know if spirit... I mean, don't get me, we have asked things in the past about if more or less an immediate answer. But every spirit's different.
Yeah.
And so you might get spirits that take some time to build that energy up in order to answer you.
That's a really good point.
You might get half an answer, you might get a full answer. Who knows? It just depends on the... But spirits with people, everybody's an individual. You know, so you need to leave that sort of gap to give them time. They might not answer you. You know, you can be sitting there an hour later and there's no bother because I'm off, I'm away, I'm not going to answer her. She's bagged, I'm away. So you just need to leave that gap. And patience, you know, just patience is a wonderful thing when it comes to investigating. I mean, you could go to this base 10 times and get nothing. So say with Loudon, it was the best part of a year, and Loudon's about 10 minutes from where we live. So we did quite a lot of investigations there before we got anything.
Interesting.
And some people might say, why did you not gear up? I say, because you don't gear up. You know, it's easy to give up and go somewhere else, but you know, if you stick with it, you're going to get results. It's the same as you're fishing in the same pond. Eventually you'll catch a salmon. You know what I mean?
But there must have been something that kept you going back, even though you was getting no responses. There must have been a feeling you're going, you know, because if you've been off a dozen times and you've got absolutely nothing, you kind of go, well, at some stage we need to cut our losses. What was the feeling, or what was the thing that kept you going back?
The two things that kept us going back, Eileen mentioned it earlier on. Peter says, sounds like someone might need to have patience. I take it that's referring to you, Debbie.
Yeah, it is referring to me. Patience is not my strong point. I like to have everything done instantly.
As Eileen says, I felt as soon as I entered the grounds at Loudon. There's two things that kept us going back. Just the feeling you get when you walk in the gate, you know that there's somebody there. I never use, you get these investigation people say there's something in the corner, or there's something inside. There's someone. That spirit's a person. It's not a thing. You know, that's another thing that people tend to make a mistake out a lot, and they'll say something. And if they say something, they can lose whatever respect they might have built up right away. Because, I mean, imagine if somebody called one of you guys, you know, a thing. Yeah. You know, that, you're done, pal. I'll never talk to you again. So we knew there was someone there. And we always had the feeling there was somebody down the back, going back, forward, back. So we later found out who it was. So it was the kind of two things that, kept us going back. And you just get, it's hard to describe. You just get a feeling that you should be going there. Say, call it spirit calling or I don't know, whatever. But you just get this feeling we need to get back to Loudon and try again. Because, and that's what keeps you going back. You see, we have done the odd location, a one-off here and there, and, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but we've never been back. But that's what kept us getting back for. We just had that feeling that we wanted to get back and that there was definitely somebody there. And you really need to experience it. You can sit and try and describe it for hours. But, unless you go there and experience it, then it's the only way to truly kind of understand it.
So can I just ask a question for you, Paul? Sorry, have you ever experienced anything?
The only thing that I can say, the short answer is no. The long answer is that I've a couple of times spoken to my spirit guide, and I had where are we? 7, 8 years ago, something like that. I had quite a lot of counselling, and we'd been talking about spirit guides, and my counsellor had a spirit guide he had a Red Indian that he used to talk to, and a couple of times I had this conversation. I can't put it any other way than speaking to a wolf, and after that I used to, like, I'm sat in an armchair now, I used to have a feeling like in a foot, how like if you got a dog or like an Alsatian or a quite a decent sized dog, and they lay and they just rest their chin on your foot. I used to just get this feeling like, and it's not pins and needles, but it certainly like would explain it. I can't explain it. I don't know where the conversation came from. Whether it's whether I was just overtired and your subconscious is playing tricks on you. I honestly don't know. I can't explain it. So I'm open to the idea that there's something out there. I hope you get a great response. When you go out on Saturday. It's not something that I particularly follow, but I'm open to different ideas. I rule nothing in and nothing out.
Well, I think that's sometimes the best way to be, isn't it? Because you're keeping an open mind. Yeah,
without a doubt. I also, when I was having this counselling, the counsellor that I worked with, he was an empath, so he would say that he could feel other people's pain. But he'd got a family member who was in hospital, and he said that when he was at home and they were in the hospital, he could feel their pain. And you go, well, that's a bit of a stretch. I'm a life coach, so I kind of think of myself as fairly mainstream and not very woo-woo at all. But the way that he explained it was the touch and taste are very immediate, and then smell is kind of a little bit further distance, and then sound is a sense that you hear, from 100 yards away or half a mile away, and sight you can see across the channel 20 odd miles. And he said, this is just another sense that I can sense her feelings or her discomfort. And it's like, well, when you explain it, like I can take that on board. The fact that I can't do it doesn't mean that he can't do it. So I'm open to anything really, to new ideas, and what.
That's the thing. I'm going to stick Laura's comment. This is a weird one. She wants your. In fact, I'll put it there now. So what are you guys' opinion on this? I know I keep saying guys, Debbie, but it's a habit, you know. No doubt.
With that, I don't mind any of those sort of terms.
That's the seatbelt thing. Laura's, she's part of your team, but she's also a very, very, very dear friend. I need to say that because she's watching. That's right. But every time she gets in her car in the back, the middle seat, the sensor, the alarm, as I call it, goes off. You know, the beep, 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 that the belt's no plugged in. No, some people say it's a faulty sensor. Fair enough. But it's happened in the last 3 cars we've had. All totally different cars.
Fascinating.
The last 3 cars, it's the same thing. So as I say, one car, you say, well, you need to get that looked at. It's a fault. But for it to happen in 3 cars, and it's always when we pick her up to her house. Occasionally, I think it's happened when she's left the house with us for here. But the 90...
No, never.
Never. It's no. So it's always when we leave, when we pick her up for her own house. And I say 3 different cars, same thing happens. As you were saying, Paul, you can't explain it.
Like say, if it had just been one car, you could attribute it to some sort of fault. But if it's 3 cars, that's more interesting. So is it that there's some sort of spirit or some sort of spirit guide around making themselves known? Is it something about her energy or the interaction and combination of your energies that are making that happen? It's really interesting, isn't it, to think, what could it be?
And that, that brings you to another point. I was saying earlier on about ghost shows and people expect massive things, Satan to appear and all that, stuff. It can be the slightest thing, as you were saying as well, Paul. It can be the slightest thing that happens that maybe 95% of people just dismiss. But there's that other 5% that got that open mind and think, well, something's making that sensor go off. So why is that happening?
Yes.
Same as some people might say if you're using cat balls, it's a dodgy cat ball, but 2 or 3 of them are going off. You think, well, what's making them go off? Something is, and it certainly knows. So it can be the slightest wee thing. But what you say, Paul, you need to have an open mind. You also need to have that bit of skeptic inside you as well. When you do your investigations, even though you believe that there is something, on the other side of the door, basically, you need to have that 20%, I always say, skepticism there, that it might not, because there's too many people jumping the parawagon these days, as I call it. The world's paranormal. As Laura Sherry thought she really doesn't have a big bum. So her bum doesn't stretch only 2 seats, basically. Thanks for sharing that, dear. I'm sure they were curious about that, I wonder what size her arse is. Do you know?
I can't say that crossed my mind at all.
Well, just thought she'd let you know anyway to dismiss that, take that off the list. But you need to be totally skeptic. So I'll be 20% skeptic, I always say. And and this is where people coming out of the paranormal make a big mistake as well. These are just my opinions, because they come in expecting it to be like, ghost adventures, ghost haunted, etc. And so they tag everything as paranormal. And, are they expecting big things? And it could be, you could go out on Saturday, David, and I do hope you strike it lucky. I do. Just be your usual bubbly self. But it could be something silly that happens.
Yeah.
And other folk might just... But you need to sort of look and say, well, because maybe that's all that spirit's capable of doing. Maybe making one slight tap or something. It's still... If you can't debunk it, you don't label it paranormal, because I think that's just leaving a target on your back, basically. Just, if you can't debunk that one tap, then it happened, we caught it on camera, but we can't explain it.
Yes.
And that's
I think when you're doing it properly, like you are, and obviously Debbie's taking it seriously, and trying to do it properly with with the blank floor plan and what have you. What you don't want to do then is leave a window open and you know what I mean. And it's like, well, that's just the dumbest thing ever. You know what I mean? Because the candle did this, and it's like, and then you get back and somebody said, well, that window was open. You go, oh, you know what I mean? So, like the skepticism makes it more real. It makes it more professional. That you're doing the job properly.
Yeah.
Aye. If you're doing an investigation and you hear a noise, especially if the noise doesn't fit in with your location. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But people see you going, or if the noise does, if you forget what I said there, if you do an investigation, you hear a noise and you can go and look and say, right, well, this is what made the noise. That window was open and it blew that door shut. So then people know that you are serious and you are looking to debunk everything rather than just say, did you hear that bang? That was Casper. He shut that door. Basically. But elevator down at... we picked up an place we investigated Caldwell was in the middle. It used to be the main staircase. And... there was a lift shaft. It was all totally wrecked now, but we picked up this recording and listening back, it sounded like a metallic running sound. Now, the house is a shell. There was nothing there. But this lasted for about 10, 12 seconds, and at the end there was a ping. Quite a distinct ping. And it was like the old-fashioned lifts you used to get when you go to the floor. I don't know if they still do that, but you go to the floor and the lift would ping. That's what it was like. But there was nothing in that building that could make that. And when we were there, we never heard that at all, So I thought, well, what can that be? Could that be a residual of when the lift was working? And that's when they started getting all scientific. So I backed out, basically. But if you get a noise in a place that doesn't fit the location, like I say, if you're in a graveyard and you get music playing, it doesn't exactly fit in a graveyard in the middle of nowhere. So if you go hunting for it, could be somebody passing in a car or something stupid like that. But you might get other people say, did you hear that singing? That was a choir. There must have been a church here at some time.
We're doing it. Obviously, we've got Matthew in the role of scientist, and he's going to be looking from the role of skeptic, looking for other explanations. Because somebody like me might get a bit carried away otherwise. So I think we're trying to get that balance there.
I'm dying. Please record that. If you don't go live, please record that.
I will do. And I'll send you the highlights.
You just send me the editor's, the director's cut or whatever you want.
Clips of me doing ridiculous things or saying stupid comments throughout the evening. So we'll see. But do you know what? If it goes well and we develop a taste for this, we'll maybe have to come up to Scotland at some point and do a joint investigation with you guys.
You're welcome. You as well, Paul. You're welcome to come up here anytime we do a wee joint investigation. That's definitely something we can do, But even if you remember, Dave, even if you go out on Saturday and you get diddly squat, don't be put off.
No.
I know you'll be a wee bit disappointed because you can see just we talk to you, you're quite excited about it, you'll be buzzing. I pity your other half now because that's probably all he's going to hear about between now and Saturday, But, if you don't get anything, you'll still have a good night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, can I just ask another question? What's the thing about doing it at night? Why do you do it 10 at night to 4 in the morning and you don't do it 4 in the morning till 10 in the afternoon?
Well, that's a good question, Paul. We've done daytime investigations because we used to wonder that as well because everybody does it at night. So we've done a few daytime investigations, at Loudon, at Caldwell, and we've had activity then. I think nighttime, when it comes to old buildings, castles, graveyards, stuff like that, it just adds a bit of atmosphere to the investigation, and plus during the day, you can see everything around you, you know, the countryside, whatever. But at night time, it's pitch black, so you don't know what's out there, and it kind of adds to the atmosphere a wee bit, you know.
I suppose sometimes in the day there's more distractions as well. There are more people moving around.
That's the other
noises interfering. And I mean, the one we're doing it from a practical perspective, that actually this is a working site and we can't go in until, apart from the site manager that's there and the employee that's going to be working with us, we can't go on site for health and safety reasons. So we've got to wait until everybody else has vacated before we can go in.
Mm-hmm. That is another good reason why at night, because, you know, there's less chance of passing traffic, passing public buses, you know, whatever. So there's less chance of noise contamination. But we're actually doing one at the end of May at Loudon. The girls, Rosie and Emma Cardy are coming up from Southampton, and we're doing an overnight there from 10 to about 4. We're going to break it into 2 or 3 tour investigations, whatever, because I'm curious to see whether activity differs from maybe 10 at night to 2 in the morning to 4 in the morning, or does it not make any difference? You know, it might be a total flop, we don't know, but we're going to try. We did it at Caldwell, and it was quite an eventful night. So we've always wanted to do it at Loudon, so we're doing it at the end of May, just to see if there is, or who knows, there might be nothing, no difference. But, you know, as atmosphere, there's less chance of noise contamination, basically. And it gives you a wee bit of a buzz because you can't see who's around you or whatever. If the big bad wolf's coming to get you, stuff like that, you know. We all do that, Dave. Usually it's me and Sarah giggling. This is human, it's normal. It is, you know, you can have a laugh, have a joke, your spirit might be sitting next to you listening. Your senses are heightened, there's less going on to distract you, less light, so you can see less external noise, so you can hear more. You know, spot on. So that's basically why everybody does it. We'll see, we've done like ones during the day, and we've had quite a wee bit of activity with them as well. Quite a few people are under the impression that Spirit only comes out today. You know, they do a night shift, start at 10, finish at 4 or 6, whatever. You know, right. I better get moving. That's start in 5 minutes. You know, but people say, "Oh, that place is only haunted at night." Bollocks! It's no. If a place is active, if a place is spirit, then it's a spirit 24 hours a day. You know, there might be times that they're not there. They go that, but that's another question for another show. Where do they go? You know, because I don't believe spirits constantly. I don't believe intelligent spirits. I'm not saying other spirits are thick, but what I mean is spirits that interact with you. They call that an intelligent haunting. I believe that sometimes they might go elsewhere. If so, where do they go? Do they go to visit their mum and dad, their grand? You know, do they go to Tenerife? Might sound daft, but who knows? Because let's face it, they can go anywhere they want. You know. But no, as I say, just go on Saturday, Debbie, and don't expect anything, and just enjoy yourself.
Thank you. I will do.
And go to the bathroom before you leave the house. That's another thing.
That was the first thing that I asked for the meeting. I was like, right, we're going to this site. Is there somewhere that if I need the toilet, if we're staying all night, that I can go? And there are working toilet facilities. There's a working
you're sorted
kitchen.
then.
I feel much better. The only thing I'm not quite sure is to what sort of the appropriate attire is to wear for an occasion like this. And do I dress up? Do I dress down? Do I put a coat on? Do I have a sleeping bag? What do I do?
whatever you feel, because you might be there for hours. So it's whatever you. I could turn and see you wear a black flak jacket, combat shoes, and blank your face out. Do you think she'd go with that, Paul? If I said that,
I would. Don't give me too many ideas because I get carried away.
Yes, I mean, obviously, you know, if you're in a team talk, that's what we tend to wear. I like black. I always wear black, but you know, we just wear whatever you're comfortable. Where, you know, because you need to think, as you say, you might be there for 4, 5, 6 hours. So if if you're comfortable in joggies, and wear joggies.
Yeah.
Like, Spirit is it's not a case of Spirit will say, look at the way she's dressed. Jesus.
Well, I'm not sure about that, Scott, because if she's going to an RAF base and she wants to fit in and make them feel part of it, I think she ought to go in fatigues.
Full army, right?
Well, not army, because she's going to an RAF.
Sorry,
that could
military.
really annoy him.
Goes a sailor.
It would be quite fun to dress up, but then I'm thinking, actually, now you've said that, maybe I need to dress in like 1940s style outfit, maybe a nice dress. Maybe I actually need to make some effort and do my hair and my makeup and things. Maybe that's going to get a better result. I don't know.
But do you know what? Do you know what? Actually, that I'm sure we spoke about this before. Okay, months and months and months ago. Laura would be able to tell you that if you go dressed, try to be dressed as close as the time period of the location you're going, it might actually, especially the male spirits, because I saw quite a bit, footage where male spirits prefer women basically rather than they'd rather talk to a lady than a man, and if they were a womanizer here, you might, so if you do go dressed up 1940s, whatever, some people might laugh at the idea, but you know what? You don't know. It could maybe, because they might recognise the clothing, rather if you go with a sort of, I don't know, joggies and a leather jacket, or I don't know, whatever, on modern clothes, whatever. They might be, I'm not sure how she's dressed, but if you go with a Vera Lynn look, whatever,
If I have time, I'm really considering that, but I am running a Reiki course all day, and then the moment I finish the Reiki course, we're hopping in the car and going. So I maybe haven't got time to dress up this time, but I'm a little bit tempted. Maybe I just need to teach Reiki all day dressed in 1940s style.
It's an idea, I mean, I think everybody gets, when you've been investigating, you get these ideas and you pop into your head, you think, I wonder if that would work. So, and the only way to find out is to actually go out and try it. Laura says you're lucky at girl toilet. Toilet facilities, some of the places we've been, it's been a bit of a problem, shall we say, and that's what I'm saying.
Maybe that could be my unique selling point if I get into this. Maybe it's that wherever we're going, I dress in like the style. So if we go and look at like a Roman fort or something, I dress up as a Roman. Or this could be quite fun.
I think it's interesting there what Peter's saying. Like Debbie's saying, I'm going to get dressed up and get dolled up to go out, but I'm definitely going to a
Mr.
event. And Peter's going, what the hell? Why are you doing your hair?
Well, like Mr. Ben, when I mind the Mr. Ben, I don't know if you remember Mr. Ben, the kids' cartoon. Could be Mrs. Ben.
I think that's where I've got my love for fancy dress and dressing up from. I used to love that as a child.
Oh, I was brilliant, wasn't it? I'm quite sure that Spirit is less superficial, very much more about the probably, Obviously, that's fantastic. It was recognised as dressing their era. That's clever, however, in my experience, warm and comfy. It's trial and error at the end of the day. If you get a couple of investigations under your belt at this place, and then if you decide to throw the 1940s frock on or whatever it is they wore, and, it might surprise you. You might get a good result.
Possibly. I think it's worth a go, and it gives me an excuse to buy lots of fancy dress outfits.
Sorry, Peter. Just being honest, my man. Sometimes the paranormal, you get crazy ideas. I'm going to try it and see what happens. If you don't dip your toe in the water, do you know what I mean? So that's why I'll just apologise to your husband, Debbie. That's all I can do.
Debbie's revolutionising paranormal investigation.
That could be a thing.
It's the future.
I think it's the future. I think we've come up with an amazing idea tonight. I think this has been worth it just for this bit of conversation.
Sorry, Laura. I've just been pulled up because I called it a frock. Well, did they know? Was it not called a frock back then? You know, dress, whatever. Attire. We'll say attire. Now I've got this in here laughing at me. But, you know, I
give a trouble you had yesterday with that word.
With what?
Attire.
What was it again?
You both were talking about your tie.
We're in here talking about getting dressed, and Laura says, you know, attire. So I thought she meant attire as a tire on a car. She talked about the way we were dressed. That's how dumb I am. Look, that rhymes, that's how dumb I am. But not that fancy dress, it could be a thing. There is a girl, she's from Edinburgh. She was on a paranormal program. I think she's a parapsychologist and debunker kind of thing. And that's what she dresses in. Yeah. It's in the 1940s. Oh, I can't. She's got black hair.
Hello, or something like that. That's on Uncanny, or a different one.
Uncanny.
Yeah.
That's what she dresses. I was trying to remember because I knew I'd seen that somewhere before.
Yeah.
You know, she dresses. I know I'm saying 1940s. I don't know. Maybe 50. I don't know. But she dresses up in the. So give it a bash. You know, Peter, get your wallet out, my man. Deb's just going shopping. Go to Primark. No, I don't know what he said.
3 new dresses put through the business as expenses.
Wigs and well, no, you only need a wig because you've got hair. You know, trigger objects can induce dress, can include dress music of the day. Music of the day are an item that was used quite commonly back then. I've no idea what, but you know, something for that time period could be thingy. But I think we're going to wind up here because David, I know you're busy.
Yes, I've got to go and sort packing out ready for tomorrow. I'm going away for a couple of days and I've not done anything to get organised, so I better go and get myself sorted.
She's going away shopping, Peter. So check the bank balance online. Check the online banking. This is what day is this? Tuesday. Aye. Check on Thursday, Friday, my man. See, gone. She'll come back with bags for, you know, 1940 dresses and stuff like that.
Just on that, a few years ago, I was a dance teacher for 10 years, and we had a dancewear shop. And on a fairly regular basis, there would be women coming in and they'd be looking at dance shoes, and they would buy a pair of dance shoes at kind of £70, and we'd say, can I pay half on card and half cash, and just give me a receipt for the card? So they'd have a receipt for £35 for a £70 pair of.
I wonder why.
But this wasn't like one lady. This would be like once a month somebody would come in, and this just seems like something that women do. I don't know.
I don't know. I can't.
My nan, and we always had to take all the labels out of everything before we got home because my granddad would collect us off the bus. And she's like, if he asks you how much everything is, tell him it was all half price. I was like, why are we doing this? This is very strange.
Grands were brilliant, but when the grands and all that they were right in. My grand, before we wind up, bless her, my grand used to stay with my grandma, we called her. She used to stay with us, and we had one of these, you know, the coin slot TV things back then. I think it was 50 pence you put in it. And the guy would come out once a month and empty it. And my mum kept it in this big bowl sort of thing. And my grandma would come out every couple of days. You know, I must have been 15, 16. She would go out, check under your mattress, son, check under your mattress. My grandma was about 3'2". She was tiny, you know. But I'd go under my mattress and there'd be like half a row of kitchen towel, you know. And it'd take about 10 minutes to unravel, and they'd be like £2 and change or something that she'd stole off my mum, you know. And it was only after she passed it, my mum eventually says to me, your gran used to rob me blind. What? She thought I never noticed, but she used to take money out of my purse and out that bowl and stick it under your mattress. There was a big CIA operation with my grandma. Check under your mattress, son. Get up. you'll thank me. You'll thank me for what. And it was like you were expecting maybe £10-20, which was a lot back then. You could maybe get 150 or something like that.
Yeah.
What am I meant to do with that? You know. So you get any more questions, dear, before we wind it up? You're no sure.
I think you have plenty to think about. Thank you. It's been very useful.
Right. What about you, Paul? I've got to ask you as well because you're here.
No, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It's been a different, interesting conversation. I can't wait to see the video next week of when Debbie puts it on her Facebook.
I'm
looking
really
forward to this.
There's going to be various pictures of me wearing strange outfits.
I had a hat down like this, the big, the big space. So, you know what I mean, like a saucer, like a flying saucer hat, you know what I mean? So, where can people find you? Debbie, you go first.
So I am Debbie Ison of Tranquil Awakenings. So you can type in my name onto Google and you'll find me on my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all over the place, really. So yeah, type my name in and I'll pop up. And
what about you, Mr. Pulse?
Yeah, Facebook is my social media of choice. Also got a YouTube channel, Paul's Proactive. If you put Paul's Proactive into Google or into Facebook, YouTube, you'll find us.
Excellent. So I'll keep a hold of you just very, very briefly after we come off. So we wish Debbie good luck, fingers crossed. Cheers, Eileen Doll and Laura. She's a great chat, guys, as well. Wish her all the luck in the world for her first investigation. And we're happy that she's stepping into this side of the paranormal, and that she's came here for some advice to me. Asking me. Imagine me. The thickest slice of bread in the loaf, but however, who cares? But no, David, have a lot of fun with it, and just be yourself and see what spirit gives you or doesn't give you, and don't be disheartened. Just have a laugh. I mean, cheers, Pierce. Good night to you as well, young man. I so wish her all the luck, and keep an eye out on her page and Paul's page as well for whatever results she might be fortunate to get. All right, folks. So we're out here. We're back again on Thursday. I'm back with Tarek Tracy. We were covering Jane Seymour and Anne of Cleves and her Tudor Henry the Wife's. Henry the 8th. I was out in the sun today. That's why it is. We're not used to this much sun exposure. Henry the 8th's wife. So that's us. But you'll be seeing these two again because I really enjoyed tonight. It's the first time I've had both of them on at the same time, and it will be happening again. All right, folks. So take care for now. And bye.
Take care. Bye.